Hey everyone, and welcome back to Masonzero MTG and the latest episode in my series on underplayed commander cards. In this video, I have a couple cards you may have heard of and a couple that I bet you haven't. If you like what you see, let me know and I'll make more of these, and you can also let me know in the comments what underplayed commander cards you love and you recommend. Planar Birth. Planar Birth is a really silly card with some niche use. It's a 2-mana sorcery in white that returns all basic lands from graveyards to the battlefield tapped. Even in white, there are a lot of decks that care about the graveyard. Me personally, I have a Teshar deck that has a lot of discard, and I am often throwing basic lands in the bin. This card makes sense in a landfall deck like Noyandar to get your destroyed lands back. It's also good in Quintorius Field Historian since it triggers his ability. Thalia and the Gitrog monster also likes this effect. It's a fun niche little card that'll have your opponents asking, hey, what is that? I've never seen that before. Jadar, Ghoulcaller of Nephalia. I think that Jadar should be in nearly every deck that wants to sacrifice creatures. It essentially makes a guaranteed token every turn as long as you sacrifice the zombie he creates. He does see play in quite a few sacrifice decks, but according to EDHREC, while he is used in nearly 70% of decks from certain commanders, other sacrifice commanders barely run him. He shines the most in on Hello the Painter, which is where he sees the most play, but I think he makes complete sense in Chatterfang, Marneus Calgar, Elias Ilkor, and Teysa Karlov. The Key Runes. There are plenty of 2-color mana rocks out there, with the Signets being the most well-known, and things like the Clue Stones being some of the most infamously hated. But somewhere in the forgotten middle ground lies the Key Runes. These artifacts from Return to Ravnica block are 3-mana rocks that tap for either of 2 colors for their guild, but they can be animated into a creature later on. Cards that serve multiple purposes are always nice, of course, and early game mana plus late game attacks is a good combo. The best one is quite possibly the Dimir Key Rune, as it's in the colors that likely need ramp the most, and it turns into an unblockable creature, which is extra good in an Ninjutsu deck. But the Golgari one becomes a 2/2 Death Touch, and the Rakdos one becomes a 3/1 First Strike, and both of those are quite good blockers, especially since your opponents might just forget that you have them on the field. Tiller Engine. Tiller Engine is one of my favorite cards from the last few years, and it's definitely played, but I think it's worth mentioning regardless because it should be played even more. It has only been printed in Dominaria United Commander, so it could be a little bit obscure, but here's what it does. Whenever a land you control enters tapped, you can untap it or tap a non-land permanent that an opponent controls. Now when I first saw this card, I immediately thought of Amulet of Vigor, which is already a known strong card. This artifact creature basically does the same thing. And I think it's basically an essential card for 5-color decks, or decks that have a theme based around lands that commonly enter tapped, which is why it's common in Gates decks like Nine Fingers Keen, and Desert decks like Hazazon Shaper of Sand. I personally play it in my 5-colored Gates deck, as well as my 4-color Landfall deck. It's a $10, as of this moment, investment for your deck that can help level up a budget mana base that includes various tapped dual lands, and you can even make some of those very strong, like the bounce lands. I think $10 is a pretty reasonable investment when a lot of good lands cost at least $10. But outside of lands that enter tapped, it's also good for any spells that put lands into play tapped. Like, I don't know, Cultivate? So if you're getting a lot of lands into play this way, it's going to provide value no matter what. For some redundancy in getting it into play, you can run cards like Scrapyard Recombiner, which can search for a construct card. Shattered Angel. Shattered Angel is a white Punisher card with a unique effect. Whenever an opponent has a land enter, you gain 3 life. It seems innocuous, but when I play it, I pretty consistently get people wanting to remove it rather quickly. In a 4-player game, it's gaining you 12 life per turn if people are still playing lands. And if people are ramping, you might be gaining even more. This is a pretty cool inclusion for a life gain deck as well, since it's an easy way to get triggers on every turn. It pairs well with the Gaffer, drawing you a card each turn, or with Valkyrie Harbinger, getting you 75% of the way to a 4/4 token every turn. It's rather absurd in an Elish Norn Mother of Machines deck, causing you to gain 6 life every time a land enters. I actually run it in my Group Hug Landfall deck, since it encourages my opponents to put more lands into play, but as they do, the Angel is going to gain me life. So those are 5 hidden gems for commander cards that you might not have known about. Let me know in the comments if you learned about any new cards, and subscribe for more commander and cube content here on Masonzero MTG.